The Air Force tests future pilot training production model. January 9, 2025, Air Education and Training Command partnered with the University of North Dakota. Sound familiar? Were you South Dakota or North Dakota? Air Education and Training Command partnered with the University of North Dakota Aerospace Foundation Flight Training Program in Arizona, and the Brunner Aerospace Flight Training Program in Tejas to test a new initial pilot training model. A total of 65 U.S. Air Force student pilots took to the skies from Mesa for small group tryouts. They were using a Part 141 certified course to get basic airmanship, instrument, and multi-engine flying competencies over 139 days, approximately 110 hours. The initial results are positive, says Brigadier General Matthew Leard from AETC. After completing this, the first class will start undergraduate pilot training utilizing a revised syllabus. And the second class is projected to begin in March at Columbus. In the revised syllabus, they will get 108 training days, 57 flying hours, 50 simulated hours in the T6 Texan 2. The model we were testing allows for increased throughput to meet Air Force pilot production requirements. Initial data shows it does so while also increasing the quality. Moving forward, they will explore partnerships with several public universities as well. They want to do 1,500, but they've got a backlog of 100,000 applicants. Oh, sorry, this was back in World War II. We're trying to make things better, but the threat is growing, and we are out of time. Eric Cetera is harnessing the power of the American academia and industry to rapidly re-optimize program. And if you'd like to learn and earn simultaneously every month, he's just ladies, never mind.
I love it.
Gonky, your thoughts? Soapbox on.
Well,
no.
Okay.
You want me to add some context?
I will. Yeah, dude.
Before you begin, let me add you some context.
Go ahead.
So this is not the whole story. A friend of the channel sent me a eye chart is what it looked like to me, but it was all the production models and how many students they were making and T6 and all that stuff. They're doing a lot of the small group stuff, including Air Force Reserve, Air Force, et cetera, Air National Guard. And the idea is they want to shift the burden off of UPT because they have no T1, they have no T38. And what they want to do is move this to the civilian sector. So the idea is if they reduce T6 hours and reduce T38 hours, they can add, you got your multi-engine in Seminole on the front side, and that will make up for it. So they're putting the burden there. The Army's doing it too. The Army just got a contract with CAE or somebody to do initial flight training in a Bell 505, which is a very nice helicopter, before they go fly the Lakota. Very weird for the IPT helicopter to be nicer. But my point is, this is the Band-Aid fix. They're also looking at, I think, the MB 339 or MB whatever 346, whatever that new one is. And they're looking at ways, because we just talked about the T7, of figuring this out, because the T38's having problems and the T1 is about to be gone. Your thoughts?
I went to the University of North Dakota, and they've been doing that. The Army was doing like a lead-in type program, you know, in the 90s when I was there, flying the R-44. Is that right? Mover. It's a little two passenger gas powered
R-22.
R-22. That's it. Yeah. Pretty popular program. And then you know, they would do you know, go through their commissioning source and go on to Army flight school. I think, having been a civilian instructor myself, I think sending military, especially a military flight training to the private sector is a horrible idea. There's two totally different thought processes, cultures, whatever you want to call it. I went through the University of North Dakota flight training program as well. So I just, dude, it's a really piss poor Band-Aid that they're trying. You know, at the end of the day, man, get the tools that the military needs to train the men and women for the military that this country deserves and the government wants. Like, period, dot. Like, don't, like, this is, in my mind, this is a really bad idea. it's okay to do, I don't know what they call it anymore, right? Get your 20 hours of Cessna time before you
IFT.
go. Yeah. That's fine. That's okay. It's a stepping stone, right? But to try to somehow reduce hours using civilian flying training, so you don't have to do as much mil training. I mean, I had 700 hours of civilian training, right? And none of, very little of it transferred over into military training because the mission's different, the mentality is different. In the civilian world, you don't train for mission success. Period. Dot. In the military, you do, right? And that's huge. Even in the 121 world, you don't. And I can't go get extra sims in the Airbus because I'm like, if I ever had this one thing happen, or I did have this one thing happen, I'd like to go in there and kind of work this thing out and get better, right? Performance, right? Military is performance based. Civilian world, it's in the civilian world, it's even more cost benefit, right? So in the civilian world is what is the minimum? What's the minimum? So that's what you get. You get training to the minimum. So I don't see it being as a good thing. And it's just going to be another layer of contracts and bureaucracy and red tape and crap between some government agency who's in charge of this and some civilian company that's going to make money off of it. That's what I think. What do you think?
The good idea fairy has struck again.
Yes, 100%.
So I have questions, like always, right?
Oh yeah,
it depends. So IFT has gone through a lot of iterations since I've been in the military. If you talk to like Deuce and my former roommate in the B course and pilot training, when they were casual lieutenants at Nellis, right? The Air Force said, "Hey, here's basically a voucher. Go get 20 hours in solo. You got up to your solo," and they would just send them. So their day job was to be a casual lieutenant. For them, it was in an aggressor squadron, which is a really good deal for them because they got to see a fighter atmosphere. But the flying part was, shorts and t-shirt and, just flying with just a regular civilian instructor. Then IFT moved to, I think it was DOS Aviation, and they went up to Colorado Springs, and it was kind of, I would say, military in that they prepared students for UPT. They had stand up, they, did boldface, EPs, all that stuff. So my question is this program going to be the former or the latter? Are we going to wear flight suits and pretend like we're in pilot training? Or is it going to be hey, you're staying in a hotel, TDY, downtown, partying it up in Mesa, good deal for 110 hours, which is going to take you probably, what is it, 3 months, 4 months, whatever it said. In which case, nobody wins from that. I mean, it's fun, but nobody's going to get anything out of that. You're not going to carry anything over with that because civilian instrument flying is not like military instrument flying. And civilian multi-engine flying is not like, fighter multi-engine. It's not like anything. It's not like anything because I did this when I got my ATP. I went and flew at a Beach Duchess, and I learned all that, piston twin nonsense, and I've never used it in my entire life because 121 heavy aircraft do not fly like small pistons. There's nothing there for you. So could you make the argument that it makes you a better stick and rudder pilot? Well, if that's the argument, let's save a bunch of money and put everybody in tail wheels because let's go make them work with T-Bear for a summer crop dusting.
Tailwheel and gliders.
Yeah. I mean, if the argument is it's going to make you better stick and rudder, I can think of a lot cheaper and better ways to do it. If the argument is we're preparing you so you have less time in pilot training, I think you're absolutely correct, Gonky. It's a terrible idea because there is no carryover. We do different instrument procedures. We do different, multi-engine procedures. We have a different mentality on how we learn an aircraft. I mean, when you show up to pilot training, they tell you, here's your -1, here's the sections you need to learn. When you show up to a 141 school, you might have a POH that is in some random order, and you may learn it, you may not. I mean, you may, when you go to your check ride, you might, which I don't think you're even going to do an FAA check ride. But my point is, they're different worlds. And are we solving a problem? And if so, what is the problem? If the problem is we can't produce enough pilots, I don't think adding stuff on the front end and shortchanging the back end is the way to do it, because all we're doing is speeding them through and making them worse.
Well, also, I think a big part of military training is the military part of it, right? So if you reduce significantly the military training, you are hurting the military's lethality as a whole, because I can't remember, it was one of the instructors like, listen, we can't shoot at you, but we have to put stress on you,
right?
Because whether you're flying a C-17 or a fighter, like you're gonna go into places where people want to kill you, and you have to be able to perform in stressful scenarios where you never got any of that when I was at UND. Never really got any of that at 121 training. It's a totally different, the military is in the business of killing people, and the people don't want to be killed, so they fight back like as hard as they can, right? So like, but it's a vicious game, right? So when and the Air Force actually does a really good job of this, probably better in some regards than the Navy, of it's the harassment package at UPT. I mean, there's no other way around it. I mean, it's stressful. Even if you're not flying, it's stressful, right?
Formal release. They put you on formal release just to harass you.
100%. You have to earn your right to go home, basically. Yeah. So like it's that is such a valuable piece of the puzzle, because that sets the tone, from the beginning of what you're getting into. You're not here just to build time for the airlines, right? Sorry, right? Yeah. Taxpayers paying millions and millions and millions. That can be your angle. That's fine. But they're paying millions and millions of dollars for you to be the most lethal warfighter you can be. And that requires a very specific style of training. And in my opinion, Mover, back when we went through, I think they actually had it doped out pretty good. It's just my own opinion.
I mean, one of the things I saw on the slide was that, everybody goes through T-38, which is more of, what's new is old, or what's old is new. Because back in the, the 90s and 80s and stuff, everybody went through T-37s, and then everybody went through T-38s. And, that's where they kind of separated. And then you went to heavies or fighters or whatever. Well, now, we used to have this multi-track system because we had the T1, we had the T-44, we had the helicopter, TH-1H. But now we don't have that luxury. And so we're kind of going back to trying to figure this out. I want to know the specifics of the program, because if it is, no kidding, Joe Bob, more than likely, it's some 21-year-old kid who is your CFI teaching another 21-year-old kid who is just out of the academy or wherever, and you lose that military discipline part of it. You lose that law of primacy. So what did you gain? You gained some ratings and maybe a little bit of air sense, but I went to pilot training with people with hours, and I got to tell you, they struggle just like everybody else. It's so like regional guys with 2,000 hours, they may do well initially, and then everybody's the same. And especially if you're shortchanging the program to where, I think it was 89 hours I got in the T6 when I went through, 89 or 90 hours. 50? You cut 40 hours off of that, and then what? How many hours is the T-38? Is there a T-38 program? Are they going straight to? Because remember, that was one of the programs at one point too. They got their wings in T6s and then go straight to Altus or C-17s or whatever. So you're expecting them to be brand new co-pilots without that mentality. I think we just need to figure this out. We need to figure out how to do it within our own system and stop trying to rely on the civilian sector when we don't need to.
Right.
But maybe we do. I mean, they're all smarter than us.
Way smarter.
Yeah. Anything else to say?
No, man. I mean, I'm sure we'll see how wrong we are, Mover.
Always. Somebody will email me. All right.